morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Pitch Track Chronicles. I am Uncle Taz. I am here with Rob. And Rob, it was looking like going to be just a disastrous 3-game sweep from the hands of the Brewers. The Yankees pulled it off. It took 10 innings to even get their first hit, which was just embarrassing. I was losing my mind, as some people of you saw on my Twitter feed. But we were able to scratch out the win at the 13 innings. And, yeah, all right, stay with the clutch home run, Mr. Garbage Time. Really phenomenal pitching. I mean, it's not like any team is really getting an edge over the other. But when you see in the matchups, you're going to get Cole versus Burns. You kind of knew what you were in for with a little bit of a pitcher's duel. And I was looking forward to it. But the big news really got taken when Dominguez got scratched from the lineup and is now dealing with the UCL tear. And I want to start off with that because I want to try to gear towards the end of the show to start talking about some positive things to kick the week off. But we do have to address the UCL with Dominguez. It's just, Yankees do what Yankees do. Their players cannot avoid getting hurt. It's not fair. The Yankees giveth and the Yankees taketh away. It's just so depressing. We had so much to look forward to, so much to really get a glimpse of what next year was going to be, and now we fucking lose it already. This sucks.
Yeah, we can't have anything nice anymore. No. We're not allowed to have any fun. The one thing that we were enjoying watching was just taken away from us for 7, 8, 9 months maybe. Boone says 9. Jeff Passan was saying that players come back from that sooner. But even Brian Hoke was like maybe mid-season. So that could be all-star break. That could be sometime in July. So it zapped any excitement from the game yesterday. Like, even though we won, I was like, okay, great. But I don't – wins are meaningless at this point. All we have to look forward to is the kids getting ready for next year. And we know that our most exciting one isn't going to be here for the first few months. So, yeah, it sucks. And I feel bad for him because he hurt himself on a throw trying to get a guy at the plate. You could tell it was a bad throw. But yeah, and the fact that he stayed in the game and he said he felt discomfort. They put him as day-to-day, and then next thing you know, he's got a torn UCL. So it's just more of the same from this team. Once they said day-to-day, I'm like, that probably means he's out for the year because they just don't diagnose anything right. That's why I don't really think it's going to be 9 months because they're never correct. He could come back sooner. Not start of the season, but we could see him maybe in like May or June if we're lucky. So it's not the end of the world, but it is a very difficult pill to swallow because the kid was raking. He was doing everything. He's the reason we won a lot of those games that we won and he got called up. He was putting the team on his back. So it sucks. It sucks that we won't get to watch him the rest of the year and the next couple of months of next season because it could have been a real opportunity for him to go into the spring, just take off, carry on the momentum, and really cement himself as like our centerpiece of the future along with Volpe. But we won't see it for the first couple of months, and it's a damn shame.
Yeah, you're kind of looking at the next version of the core four. People were starting to kind of see if they were not that they. It's hard to say, but where I do agree, if there was a group that had the potential to really carry that mantle of the core four brand, it would be the guys that we've been seeing this year, as opposed to when the baby bombers came up, with Severino, Judge, Sanchez, and Torres. I don't think we were going to get that, right? It's just so hard to strike gold so many times before it's worthless. But it really. I was at the game yesterday, and you saw, just as soon as we saw that he was scratched from the lineup, and it was just the life was just sucked right out of the stadium. And you kind of, you kind of almost saw the mood in the players. Um, it was almost like they were holding their own. The pitchers held their own. I'm not arguing about the pitching, but with the at bats, you just saw there was just something off about them yesterday. It was like they were in mourning that their teammate that was kind of became the life of the team for September was just suddenly just taken away from them. So the beginning of that game, as much as I enjoyed the pitchers duel, I really do. Yeah, when you get games that are pitched like that, the loss sucks, but it's just so impressive to watch, especially after baseball made all these changes to improve the offense, that you can still get outings from ace pitchers that they're able to shut down the offense. So it really was impressive to watch those two go at it. I mean, pitch counts were high; they were grinding it out. A lot of pitches were thrown, but yeah, it was. You just saw the mood around the stadium was just completely different. But let's get to some of the chat here. We got a fire one right now, and let's start off right at the tippity top. We got Mazza, what's going on? You got Jonathan. Good morning, Jonathan. Are you still out west? Let us know, or are you back home? Retired war vet. As always, thank you for your service. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We got NFE. NFE, I should have known you were going to be here, my brother. Steve Schumann's in the building. What's going on, Steve? Nice to see you. I should have really highlighted some of these to make it easier to do this, but hey, it's Monday, and my voice is barely hanging on from yesterday. Dev, what's going on, Dev? And I know I'm going to forget a few people. Medina, what's going on, Medina? You got Lori in the building. Good morning, Lori. Oh, where'd my screen go? There we go. Good morning, Lori. But you're starting to see a big. Let's bring up one of these comments here that I saw. There it is. The team supposedly didn't know. Wrong one. Thanks, Steve. Players supposedly didn't know about Jason until after the game, but who knows? I think when you get a late scratch like that from a lineup, you might not. They might not have known what the problem was, but they knew there was a problem. You don't just scratch a young kid like that. That was very unlikely. So it's okay. You're back home, Jonathan. Good. I hope you enjoyed your trip. But I mean, Jonathan adds here, and I agree with this part of it. Even though Dominguez is hurt, I think he still could be the best outfield system since Bernie. Yeah, he was that impressive. I like the fact that the first thing that Jason said was, let's just do the surgery. Let's just rip this Band-Aid off, do the surgery, and let's just start the clock now. He's not trying to fuck around. He's not trying to risk his future. And let's remember, guys, he's only 20 years old. It's not like we're dealing with a guy that, got called up late in his career that we were screaming for a decade. It's not like a Florial, right? If we were screaming for Florial, he finally got the call up, and now he's got this injury that, is going to set him back. Like, you wasted all those years with him in the minor leagues. We don't have that. It's the other way around. It's early enough in his career where he can heal very well. And it's very different when it comes to position players as opposed to pitchers with the surgery. Right? Look at Harper. Harper came back. Nobody expected to see him. Harper, I know, is a little different. He's a veteran. He's experienced. He knows his athletic body like the back of his hand. He knows what he can handle. He knew not to force himself. I'm not too concerned about the timetable. Not at 20 years old. Rob, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about it. I just want to make sure that they do it right. Don't rush them. Because we've seen what happens when you rush players back. Even with Bryce Harper, they brought him back, but he couldn't play the outfield because of it. He had to play first. So I mean, if they bring him back sooner, they're going to have to stash him at DH to make sure he's not throwing the ball. And then where does that leave you in center field next year? Do you put Stanton in right and Judge back in center, assuming Judge is 100% healthy? Maybe they go after another outfielder. We don't know what they're going to do, but they need to bring him back when he's 100% ready to go. So if that has to be June, then let it be June. But if he has some sort of miraculous recovery, maybe the surgery goes really well. He's back by the time May rolls around, then great. But we gotta know an actual timetable, and they gotta make sure he's 100% because this kid is the future of your franchise. Him, Volpe, still Judge, even though he's not a kid no more. Judge is still part of this future, and you're hoping other guys like Wells and Peraza can be part of that future as well. But Dominguez is kind of the centerpiece of it because he was here since he was 16. The hype was around him immediately. He got the Martian nickname. He had the comparisons to all these different players. So he's supposed to be that centerpiece of your future. So you got to make sure he's 100% ready to go. Don't rush him back. Don't be like, well, he can swing the bat, so we're going to stick him at DH. No, make sure he's 100% because one bad throw or even one bad swing could fuck him up for another year, and you don't want to do that. So make sure he's 100%.
Yeah, exactly, do not bring him back until he is 100%. There's no rush. There's no rush. It's not like, we've been on we've gone through lean years, and this year we were on the precipice of really making a championship run. We're in the other way around. We're on the down tail of it, right? Next year is that year where you really, your goal is to, the goal should be to win. A team's goal should always be to win, not just exist, right? I really believe that. I don't care what market you're in, right? If you're able to get him back at any point next year, you take it as a success. Say he misses all of next year, but when he comes back, 21, 22 years old, is it really that much of a loss, for him? No. It may set the team back a little bit. They might have to get a little creative to bring somebody in to fill the void, but they already have those players. Maybe that gives another lifeline to Jones. So they already have, maybe not Florial. Maybe it gives him a lifeline. So who knows? But he's already, I don't know where Florial is with this team anymore. If they haven't used him yet, do we expect this to be the time that they do it? No. I think Florial's time is gone. I don't think he's an option. In their eyes, he's an option for us as fans. We've wanted him to get it. But as far as the team goes, they can care less what happens with him. They're going to have to really figure out what they want to do this offseason. Because don't make the stupid mistake of signing somebody to a 3-year deal. And then you're like, well, now we're stuck with this 3-year deal. What do we do? You really, if it's not a 1-year deal, you tell that outfielder, sorry, we can't sign you. Because we're not wasting multiple years in a position that's going to further, because we all know Cashman's mindset. Well, we can't go after, we can't bring up this guy because we have, this player under a contract. We've seen it. We haven't seen Florial because, well, we have Hicks. But Hicks should not have even been here. So you've seen we've seen the history of Cashman that he fucks up when it comes to getting guys back from injury, clogging up roster spots. Cashman has to make sure that he leaves it available for when Dominguez is ready. No harm, no foul. You have an outfielder on a 1-year deal to fill the void until he comes back. I don't care who it is. Let it be IKF for all I give a shit. But just somebody where when they come in, you're going to put them back on the bench and not have to worry about pissing somebody off on a contract. You just give Florial the spot, Dominguez's spot back. Donald, how the fuck have you been? Where have you been?
I'm back. I am back. It's so good to see everybody. I've missed you all. I have missed you all. Um, Sorry for being late, but I'm glad to be here, and pleasure to see everybody in the chat again.
So, all right, Donald, we're going to throw you right into the fire. Welcome back. What's going on? What do you think about this whole bullshit with Dominguez?
Oh, I'm heartbroken for Dominguez. It's just because he's such a historic star. 4 home runs in 8 games, 7 RBIs, 677 slug, an OPS almost at 1,000. He has been incredible. He has been phenomenal, and it's been a breath of fresh air. It really has. It's been a breath of fresh air, and it's just been the story of this season. Just look at it. Aaron Judge with a toe, Anthony Rizzo with a season-long concussion, Domingo Herman with a perfect game and then alcohol abuse and then going to rehab. It's just this has been the story of our year. It doesn't seem to stop, and when we finally get something to be excited about, this happens. However, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. End of the day, he's a position player. He's not a pitcher, right? So it shouldn't affect him moving forward. And it can take any time between 5 and 10 months to recover from. Mike Trout was okay after 5. Shohei Ohtani was okay after 6. It depends. It depends on your recovery. It depends on the individual. But and I think, worst case scenario is he'll be back by June. I think more likely, I think you could even see him by April. Starting to go to rehab games in April or whatever. Maybe he'll miss the first month of the season rehabbing games in AAA or whatever, but I think you'll see him fairly soon. He's 20 years old. I don't think it'll take him too long to recover, but it's just the story of the year, and it's kind of bad luck for us because we needed to see him develop for the month, and it helps us plan for 2024. But this is the story of the Yankees season. It really is tough, but it's nice to see so many friendly faces in the chat. Donald, how are you, bro? Sup, Donald? Yeah, I've had some personal problems that has kept me away, but I'll hopefully be good to go for the next little while.
I think this one's what's going on. Well, you guys are the Giant fans, so I'm going to pull this up for you guys to break it down. Danny Dimes' QBR is 8.3. Ironically, is the same amount of games Jason played before needing TMS.
Tommy John surgery, I think, was what it was meant. But yeah, the Giants are. Yeah, we could be looking at a very, very bad baseball and football season in New York. You never know. It's not a great start, but hey, let's talk baseball.
I feel like I was sacked as many times as Daniel Jones after watching that.
You got retired Warbird here. Stanton's going to have to go if Dominguez has to DH. Do you think that would be I think this is interesting. If they do bring Dominguez back and he's not able, I said they shouldn't bring him back until he can play the field. Right? He's young enough. You don't have to rush him back at all. Do you see a situation where they do kind of make that the moment where they eat the rest of his contract and just move on from him to free up the DH role for Dominguez and Judge to kind of share that spot in the order? You think that how much of a possibility do you believe that to be?
I don't see Stanton getting traded because he doesn't want to leave, unless he's getting traded to
release him, give him the A-Rod.
Oh, they're not releasing him with 4 years left. They're not going to do that. You think they're going to release him out with 4 years left? They got to pay him like
No, I
$100
don't
something
think
million.
so. I'm just it was brought up. It was something I'm like, you know what? That's an interesting take on it.
Yeah, there's like Steve said, there's no way they're going to eat that money unless he gets traded to a team like San Diego, which we know he loves to play on the West Coast, or a team like the Dodgers that are going to be in contention. He might accept a trade there, and the Yankees have to eat significant money because no one's taking that deal. But unless that's the case, I don't see him going anywhere. You just got to play him. You just got to play him in the outfield more. That's it. Start of the season next year, you got to assume he's going to be healthy, and just play him as often as you can. If that's the case, if Dominguez has to come back and DH for a little bit, Stanton's got to play the outfield, and Judge has to play some center field. Unless they bring in a guy like Lee, who's been talked about a lot from overseas. He's a massive bat that we could use in this lineup, lefty bat, Junko Lee. He was brought up earlier in the chat, so they could do that. And then Dominguez, when he's healthy, can play left field. But then that leaves where does Spencer Jones go? Where to do a Pereira? So there's a lot of questions that they have to answer. But Stanton getting moved to me is very unrealistic. Unless, and shut up, Sunil, and unless I'm just messing with you, Sunil, I see you with the Cowboys thing. I don't see a scenario where Stanton's gone next year unless it's to the Yankees eat a lot of money and he's going to a team like the Dodgers or Houston or something that's ready to win.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see the purpose in eating $122 million. It's not like he's Josh Donaldson. I mean, you talk about a guy that can still hit the ball harder and farther than anyone else in the game when he's right. Now, he's not been right for a while, but you know, he still comes up with these 2-run shots like he did yesterday. Like, he's still got that in his locker. So even in a terrible season where he's batting below the Mendoza line, he's still in and around 25, 30 home runs. You can still make use of that. That's still something that you can make use of at the bottom of the order. Not at the bottom of the order, maybe like in the sixth hole or something like that. Now, is that what we're paying him for? No. It isn't, but this is the stage. This is where we're at. I'm still willing to give him another mulligan, another year. I give Stanton. I still give Stanton a bit of leg room. No pun intended, because his legs are fucking shot. Excuse me, but but he still has a good bat on him. But we do need to really rebuild this offense in 2024. I don't know. I mean, can you see a scenario where the Dodgers are like, oh, you pay 75% of his contract or 60% of his contract, we'll pay the rest? I'd find it unlikely, but you never know. If that happens, I'm sure the Yankees will do it. But otherwise, I like Stanton. I do.
Yeah, Stanton still has the talent to contribute to the team. You know, we just saw it last night. Like I said, I was at the game and was sitting in his extra innings, and I'm looking at my son, my nephew, and his girlfriend, and I'm like, "What do you guys want to do?" I'm like, they still hadn't had a hit yet, you know. I'm like, "What do you guys want to do? Do you want to stay? It's your call, right?" And they're trying to figure it out, and I'm like, you know what? I said, look, we'll wait until Stanton's hit back because he was leading off with the ghost runner. I said, if Stanton makes out, we're going home because that's it. I says, but let's see if he can keep this game alive. And boom. And I looked around. I'm like, guess we're staying.
What was the game like, Tats? That was probably the best game that we've had all year.
The first part of the game was very, very blah. Not a lot of energy from the crowd. It was almost like when they scratched Dominguez from the lineup, it just sucked the life out of the whole room.
Yeah.
And watch it. I always enjoy watching a good pitches duel, you know, but I really, you know, it would have been nice to see a little bit more at the plate. But as the game started to progress and you started to see that our pitching really wasn't letting them get any advantages with their bats. You're like, all right, once it got to like the seventh inning, you started to see a lot of the energy because it was almost like that feel for a walk off. And now I started getting into it because I have never been to a game that was a walk off. So now I'm like, all right, I get to, I'm getting ready to witness my first walk off hit at Yankee Stadium. So I didn't want to leave, because I even said to my to the kids after, I says, you guys realize that if you guys wanted to leave, I was never taking you to another game. And they're like, no, we knew. That's why we weren't gonna. But no, it was once it got to the seventh, eighth inning, it just the energy just kind of flipped, and it was just everybody was into it. So a lot of people, it wasn't a big crowd because of the weather. The way the game was going, a lot of people did leave a little early, which always annoys me. Like, if you don't want to stay for the extras, that's fine, but stay for the 9. You paid for 9 innings, stay for 9 innings. So there was a really good crowd. You could tell the crowd that stayed through the whole 13. Those were they were all Yankee faithfuls. Like, there was no bandwagons there, and it was just it was electric.
I remember texting you after the 6th inning going, Tats, I swear to God, if you witness another no-hitter, because it reminds us when we both went to the Astros game where we got no-hit last year, I was like, oh, no, not again. I mean, it was 10 innings this time, not even 9, 10 innings of no-hit ball, but we still won the game. What can I say? What a weird game. What a weird game. I was really happy. I was happy. It's nice to celebrate a win, even as meaningless as it was. It's probably our best win of the year.
I mean, like I said earlier, you guys all saw the video. I was losing my fucking mind. I'm like, don't tell me that. And there were other people just like I was. So I don't want to hear that baseball is dead in New York. It's still the people that are taking the time to go to these games are the ones that really do give a shit. They're not going just to go to a game for the day. I mean, they sat through the fucking rain to get in. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and I'll tell you though, the 98 replica ring that they handed out is fucking nice.
Did you get one?
Oh yeah, it's
beautiful.
really
Beautiful.
They always do the giveaways. They always do it right. That they did. Yeah, you're right, Maz. We go because we love the team. Yeah, Jonathan Cole should have four more wins. Absolutely. This poor guy has been screwed all season by this offense. But now it's when it comes to these giveaways, the Yankees they do give it. It wasn't no cheap fucking tin ring either. This thing is fucking heavy.
Did you see the giveaway for the 22nd game? It's like a vest, and it looks like something Brian Cashman wear. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting that's the day they have the Fire Cashman thing planned out. So I hope they're all wearing that vest as they're doing it. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, right. No, no, I did not see I know of the giveaway. I haven't seen what it actually looks like though. That's going to be interesting to see.
Didn't Cashman miss the Old Timers Day celebration for the 98 team?
Yeah, he was in Japan scouting Yamamoto.
Oh. So he was there for the no-hitter.
Yeah.
That's good. That'll help.
So
at least he's doing something.
Yeah. But let's talk about the opening day, the Old Timers game for a second, because we didn't get a chance to really brush over it. But how cool was it to be able to go into that little time machine and watch those guys interacting, being on the field together? What did that bring you guys back to?
I'm gonna be quite honest. I didn't really care, because I can go back and watch the highlights of the '98 season. And we do it every Old Timers Day. They have kind of like the same faces, and you hear the interviews about what it was in the '90s. And it was cool to see them all together again. It was cool to see Jeter back in a Yankee uniform. But to me, without there being a game played, just having them sit there and answer a couple of questions, it was just kind of like, eh. It was like it was nice, but I can hear them talk in interviews in the past, and the same questions are asked. Like, what was so special about the '98 team? Oh, well, all we wanted to do was win, and like, well, I know those answers, so it was nice to see them all again. I remember those teams. That's what I grew up watching, was those '90s teams. The '98 team specifically was the greatest thing I've ever watched in a sports season. So, but to me, the old timers day, I would much rather see a game at work, even if it's not a game, like this kind of like this sit down Q&A, it just felt like it was nothing but it was just about the '98 team. It wasn't like they didn't bring back so many other people and like, oh, let's ask questions to everybody. It was just like, let's get the '98 guys up here. It didn't feel like an actual old timers day. And yeah, no Bernie Williams. I think he had a surgery on his shoulder or something, so he couldn't make it, which is unfortunate because he was such a big part of that. And then Medina's right. They booed Aaron Boone when he got introduced. So I don't know. It didn't feel the same as usual. I don't know. I enjoy seeing them. Don't get me wrong, but I could do without. Let's just have you sit down and answer some questions that I've already heard you answer year after year. Because every time we see Scott Brocious and Strawberry and all these guys, they go, "What was so special?" Yeah, it's the same question. So like, I could do without that. I'd rather watch the game, but I understand why these guys don't want to play a game because they're older now and they don't want to pull a muscle or something. But yeah, it's a weird thing we have now, but it is still cool to see those guys.
For me, it took me back to a time where winning mattered, playing every day, like your only ambition is to win that day and the next day and the day after that. That was back when that mattered. And it just took me back to that time. It took me back to the time where the Yankees were the Yankees, and the Yankees logo and the franchise and the history meant everything. That has been diminished recently. Has been diminished with years of mismanagement, excuses, horrible baseball players like Josh Donaldson and Aaron Hicks, and it's nice to remember when the Yankees were the best of the best. Derek Jeter, beautiful to see him. I miss him. I miss him every day. I wish he'd be the general manager or some kind of a president or something. And it was great to see Jorge Posada. I've missed him. And I love Andy Pettitte. Those are a lot of my guys are my favorites. I mean, the one thing I'll say about the '98 team is I don't agree with the core four. It's far more than the core four. It was like the core seven. I think the core eight. You know what I mean? I think you should add Tino, you should add Paulie, and you should add Bernie to that core four, and you could even add Scotty Brocious in there. You know, I mean, I think that you could even add David Cohn in there. Like it goes on and on. It was just like that team was unbelievable, and I miss it. I miss it so much, man. I really do. I miss what the Yankees meant, and it should mean what it meant back in '98, but due to years of mismanagement and excuses and poor management from Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner, it looks like this year he's taking more of a hands-on approach, but for past years he's just as culpable. So all this is the reason why the Yankees are in last place. So it was nice to see back when the Yankees mattered. So that's my biggest takeaway from that. But it was great to see Derek Jeter, even though his shoes were ridiculous. I don't know what those shoes were.
No, I what I would have done different is I agree with Rob. I think they should have had, you want to stop having the game and do the Q&A, that's fine. But they should have made it about all the players coming back not just focus on that one team. I think that would have been cool. You know, to hear the different generations of the teams, because some listening to stories from those guys is I think would have been so important with the kids being called up for them to be able to listen to all of that. Even though they could go back and they could watch the tape, but when you're watching these guys talk about it's really different seeing it in person. So I think that would have been something they could have done. They could have done it behind the off camera in the locker room for all we know, in the clubhouses. I'm sure they were all interacting, but I think the Q&A should be with all the old timers coming back. It shouldn't have been just the 1 year.
How cool was it to see Joe Torre, though? That was one of the things that really stood out to me. I'm very glad to see Joe Torre back, and I loved what Joe Torre said. He's like, no excuses. This is what you sign up for. Boone's been given a kind of a tough break with some of the things that have happened, but it's no excuses. This is the Yankees. This is what you sign up for. I loved it. I love that because what have the Yankees all been all about for the last 6 years? Excuses. So it was really nice that Joe Torre, in his very first time he's spoken wearing a Yankee outfit, reminds everyone that actually, sorry, there's no excuses. So he wasn't calling anyone out. He was just saying there's no excuses. So that was one of the big takeaways. I thought Joe Torre was great, and it reminded me of a time when the Yankees had really good managers.
Well, it wasn't even just the manager. You had, the manager, the player, the front office, the owner, where every game was played like the season depended on it. Those teams took like that football approach where every win or loss can make a difference in your season from start to finish. That's how those 162 were played back then.
Yep.
Not like with football where it's 16, it was 18 weeks now, whatever the fuck it is, where, it really does fall into that category where a win and a loss can really, alter your postseason chances. They were playing like that in April and May, not just in September. So I think that it is nice to see the guys with that mentality still are able to talk about the same passion as if they, with about the game like they did when they played or just when they retired. They still have that love for it. So that's what I like to see. But I want to throw it back to the now. And Donald, you've been gone for a little while on your leave. So I want to hand you the floor for a while and just break down everything you've seen with these kids. Just give us your breakdown of how you're feeling into September.
Well, first of all, I'm delighted that the Yankees have taken this direction because it's not a surprise that the Yankees have actually started to win as soon as they brought in fresh blood with people that have upside. And this was what our argument as the Pinstripe Chronicles has been right from the start during the time where Aaron Judge went down and Anthony Rizzo was struggling with the concussion. We've been saying it all along. It made no sense to be giving all these at-bats to Franchi Cordero and Jake Bowers and Billy McKinney and all that stuff and making IKF an everyday player. It didn't make sense. It never did. And you see the difference that bringing in some lifeblood with people that are playing for their futures, that have upside, and have generated a momentum from this fan base, which wasn't happening all summer long, where they were just wasting games that they didn't need to waste. It's been a pleasure to see these guys come in. Now, I'm not saying that Dominguez should have been called up months earlier, right? I think they did the right thing with Dominguez. I mean, the guy only had like 10 games in AAA, so like I don't really mind Dominguez necessarily, but I think that there was definitely room to bring in Wells earlier. I think there was definitely room to have definitely punted Josh Donaldson much earlier before he got injured. I think you could have traded him. You could have traded Aaron Hicks at the start of the year. You could have made those moves, and you could have started to consider bringing some of these guys in. And I think you would have seen a much better Yankee product, certainly through this summer, because the Yankees basically, Brian Cashman especially, because Brian Cashman, he did not want to call up the prospects from, I understand Hal Steinbrenner did. They wasted an entire summer, which is kind of ridiculous. And it was hard for us as fans, because every day you're seeing a bunch of guys, 2/3 of the lineup being filled with guys that you know is not going to be there next year, or even in September. So it just felt like a complete waste of time. And that's why the Yankees are in last place. If they maybe looked at ways in which to give Peraza everyday at bats, you see what he's doing now with everyday at bats. Not only is his glove excellent, but his bat's turning around, right? Until they sat him yesterday for whatever reason. But he's starting to turn it around. You know, Pereira is still taking him a little bit of time, but I'm not necessarily surprised. Wells, I think, has looked very comfortable, and he's been better catcher than many gave him credit for. So, like, I think there was definitely room for these guys to have been given the kind of at bats that they should have been given at some point in the summer, and you probably would have seen a much better Yankee product. And I guarantee we probably wouldn't have been in last place. I'd make that guarantee. I don't think the Yankees would have been in last place. Whether they'd be in fourth place, whatever, I don't know. But the Yankees wasted their summer, and it just felt like a missed opportunity. So it's been a pleasure to see these guys develop, and you're seeing these guys with every day at bats are getting better. Dominguez has obviously blown everyone away. From the left side, he is mashing. He is a monster from the left side. It is crazy. I'm very, very excited for him next year. He's not only did he exceed any expectations, any of our wildest dreams, but what I loved about him is he's completely undeterred. It's just like, yeah, I'm meant to be here. I don't care how old I am. 20 years old, no problem. Right. Well, Justin Verlander, future Hall of Famer. My very first swing is going to take it 400 feet. That's the kind of attitude that the Yankees have missed. And there's not enough guys in our entire 40-man roster that has that kind of attitude. And I love that attitude. And that's why I think he's going to be someone that's going to be a big part of our future. So that's been the great thing I've seen about Dominguez. He looks comfortable in center field. He played a very fine center field, and 4 home runs in 8 games with 7 RBIs. Ridiculous, almost 1,000 OPS, almost slug of almost 700. These are crazy numbers, that computer game numbers. So, I mean, I'm very, very excited about Dominguez. The only one that's really kind of, for me, is maybe taking a little bit more time was Pereira, but he's not even looked that overawed either. He's been fine. I'm not overly worried about him. So there's a lot to be happy about. I think Anthony Volpe had one of the great Augusts for a rookie. He was tremendous in August. So it just shows that when you give these rookies, these young guys with upside, an extended time to get their feet wet, to learn, to adjust, and you're starting to see it. You're starting to see it. You're starting to see something that could be tangible. And I have to be honest, I think these guys have the potential to be better than the Baby Bombers 2.0. I think there's longevity here with a bunch of these guys that wasn't there with the Birds and all that stuff. I think you can see a bunch of these guys that could stick around for a long time if the Yankees give them that opportunity, and you're starting to see it. So that's my big takeaway. It sucks with the Dominguez injury, because he was a big reason why we were tuning in every day. He was making every game fun, and that really hurts. But still, it shouldn't deter the Yankees for their plan for the rest of the month. The first thing I would do is bring up Florial. If they even think about calling up Franchi Cordero again, I'm done. I'm done for the season. It's such a waste of freaking time. Please stop. The guy is one of the worst outfielders I've ever seen, and he can't hit a breaking ball. Stop it. Florial had 6 RBIs the other day and has 28 home runs in AAA. What does he need to do to get a run? This is your chance. We don't have a center fielder right now, unless they play Cabrera in left and Pereira in center. We don't have an outfielder. We're down an outfielder. So this is the opportunity to call up Florial. I'm not expecting miracles, but it's just kind of, you need to give a nod to that guy. You can't have a guy hit 28 home runs in AAA with an OPS over 900 and be told that, sorry, you're going to spend the rest of the season in AAA when the Yankees don't have any outfielders. That's just such a stupid thing to even suggest, So that's what they need to do. They're in last place. They're below 500. There's nothing to lose. Give Florial the rest of the month, and then you see what you got. I'm not saying miracles are going to happen, but I'm just saying at least you see what you got, and then you can plan from there. There's zero reason why they shouldn't do that. But as I say, this direction that the Yankees have taken has been a breath of fresh air. It's been a breath of fresh air that should have happened weeks prior, much prior. But at least you're seeing it now. And what's the big takeaway that we took away from these rookies coming in? Aaron Judge has loved it. Garrett Cole has loved it. They've said they've brought so much energy and fight to this locker room, right? That's why you call these guys up earlier. That's why you do it. That's why, because you've got momentum. You've got something to play for. These guys are playing for their livelihoods. You need that you're not going to get from a bunch of journeymen. Sorry, that's the truth. So it's been a breath of fresh air, and the Yankees started to win series. And they're going to have bad losses like they did the other day with Milwaukee, 9-2, and the day prior to that. But you have these fun wins like you did yesterday. So, and beating the Astros, which we haven't done since forever. So, there's been a lot of positives, and it's all of it has come from making a decision, choosing a direction, which the Yankees have refused to take for years. They finally chose a direction. We're giving our kids a chance, and then you're starting to see them flourish.
Well, that's why you're not going to see Florial. They're going to use the excuse that, well, it's September. It's already, the season's already past us. They're going to put IKF in the outfield, or they're going to slide Judge over to center and put Stanton in right. They're going to do whatever they can not to bring up another prospect or not bring up another minor leaguer. I just don't. They're going to have somebody. It's going to be Cordero. It's not going to be Florial. Like we said at the beginning of the show before you got on here, Donald. They will figure out whatever they have to do not to make the right move. Because that's just the way the Yankees operate.
That's true.
Jigga said it in our chat the other day and on his show with Hector and TC. These call-ups were all just to appease us, to put blinders on for how bad the season has gone. I think what we see, the kids that are here now is all we're going to get. There's not going to be anybody else that comes into the mix. They're not going to. Their theory is going to be, I'm not putting another minor leaguer at risk on the major league level, and risking him getting hurt just for a few more weeks. I don't see it.
I think it sums up Brian Cashman, because if Florial balls out, right, hits a bunch of home runs for the rest of the month, Brian Cashman's going to have to answer why he DFA'd him, and B, refused to put him on the 40-man, and C, give all the opportunities to a bunch of never has-beens. That's going to be questions that Brian Cashman doesn't want to answer. So it's much easier for him to say, Franchy Cordero, he's always got a little bit more in the locker. A lot of bullshit, but I think that's part of the reasoning that Brian Cashman has, because Brian Cashman doesn't want to face the heat.
Look at this payroll comparison that Retired Warbeck threw out. Look at the difference. This should be this is set up to be one of Cashman's better off seasons, because he doesn't have to. You see the potential with these kids. They don't have to change the whole roster now. You just need to get some pieces to just plug in while we wait for the next group of prospects to have the trust to come up. The only thing that they have to put some serious money into this offseason, I think, is going to be the pitching. I think we do need a little bit of an overhaul because Cole, we all know Cole's not a problem. Rodon, we don't know what he's going to be with a full season. Don't forget, he missed the whole. He had no spring training. He just had a few setback after setback. Dominguez, they're not going to keep. They're going to let him go to free agency. Severino, they better not bring him back. So the starting pitching really needs to be the focus and an outfielder, whether it be Bellinger or whoever, Hoyley, not Hoyley, whatever his name was. Rob, you mentioned him earlier. It was in the chat.
John Coley.
Yeah, there you go. So, if you're able to do that, I think that's set up to be a really good season for 2024.
Well, yeah, they have to overhaul a lot of things. Pitching for sure, because again, you have to assume Rodon's going to be better. You just have to, because if you go into next year thinking he's going to be an absolute bust, then you're just not going to be able. You shouldn't even watch, because what's the point of just going into every season thinking failure is about to happen? He's a good pitcher, and he's dealing with a lot of crap. He's coming off of 3 good starts, and he got roughed up last time. Let's just see how his next start looks. We talked about that the other day. You can definitely call year 1 an absolute disaster, but we know that he's been dealing with 4 different injuries. So let's give him a healthy spring. Hopefully everything goes well. And if he's healthy next year, then he should be a better pitcher. Will he be the guy he was in San Francisco? I don't know. But as long as he's a really good pitcher or just a solid good number 2, that's what we're paying him for. We're not paying him to be the ace. He's supposed to be the guy behind Cole that you can say in a playoff series, your chances of starting off 2-0 are greater than the other teams because you have that 1-2 punch. And if you can bring in Yamamoto, that'd be fantastic. He'd be fantastic to have as your number 3 because, you don't know what they're going to have with Cortez because he's really he hasn't been healthy all season, and you don't know if you can rely on him next year, maybe as a number 5. I don't want to see – I don't know about Michael King. I really don't. And they might sell high on one of those guys like King or Schmidt, because they have so many pitchers coming up, but there's a lot of uncertainty. You don't know if Michael King's going to be like this next year. He's been good as a starter so far, but they have to really stretch him out. And can we afford to have him and Clark Schmidt, who are going to be on these innings limits? Because none of those guys have thrown that many innings. This is the most Schmidt's thrown, and King will be on that same category next year as a starter. So you're already limiting yourself. We don't expect to see Severino. We won't expect to see Domingo Germán. The pitching is a question mark after Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, so they might have to go get another starter in free agency like a Yamamoto and maybe even go back to that Marlins trade and go get one of those guys. And if you have to move Glaber or even Peraza to maybe do it, I don't know what they're going to do with Glaber. Do they extend him because he's been really good this year, or do they sell high on him to get a pitcher and roll with Peraza? We really don't know yet, but they might have to get a couple of arms, and they should look into getting another outfielder or a third baseman, something like that. Get another lefty or a switch hitter in this lineup. I brought up Tommy Edman a few times. Brendan Donovan's a guy that's been talked about that can shift to the infield, but the Cardinals need pitching. We have pitching prospects that could match up well. They also have a lot of bats that we can use, so there's things that can match up there, but they have to do a lot. They can't just be like, all right, we're going to wait for Dominguez to get healthy. We're going to add like a starting pitcher or a bullpen piece and call it an offseason. No, because you don't have a left fielder next year still. We don't know if Pereira is the guy. And Dominguez is going to be hurt. So if Dominguez is hurt, then if you're going to stick with Pereira is going to play center. You still need a left fielder. So I would pay the money to get Lee. And if that's the case and Dominguez can play left when he's healthy, Spencer Jones can move to first for all I care. I know he's very athletic, but Lee is a damn good outfielder, and he's a damn good bat, and you could find a way to make that work. He's another lefty, and all of a sudden you got a ton of balance. But they have to be very, very active, and they have to be, dare I say, creative, because Cashman's idea of creative 2 years ago was getting Josh Donaldson. This has to be a whole other level of creative if they're planning on fixing this, because you can't just be like –
competence.
Oh, yeah, you can't think Pereira's going to – you don't know if he's the guy yet. You don't know – they don't even know if Wells is the guy yet because they continue to sit him. when Garrett Cole's pitching. They still haven't seen him pitch Cole, and you're kind of running out of chances now. I think Cole might have like 2 more starts left, so he's got to do it soon. I would hope his next 2 starts, but you still have some question marks, but there are some good things going into next year that you can be excited about, but they have to change this team up for the better. You got to get more lefties or switch hitters. That's probably the best case. So you could have guys that can hit from both sides of the plate. There's more balance in the lineup, but they have to get creative as possible, and they can't afford to just make 1 or 2 moves and be like, well, we're going to be healthy. Yeah, you have a healthy Rizzo. That's great. You're going to get Dominguez back at some point. That's great. But you also have to prepare in case Rizzo struggles or those symptoms pop back up. I hope they don't. You got to prepare for the inevitable Stanton IL stint. You don't know how Judge's toe is going to hold up. DJ LeMahieu, is he back? Is he going to struggle at the start of next year? We don't know. Do you look to move him? Is there that off chance Stanton gets moved? I don't see it, but maybe. What do you got to do? You got to do something. You got to try to find a way to get creative, and you have to fix this team because you could be looking at another transition year next year, and I don't know if we can go through that again.
Well, it might, we don't want to see it, but it's necessary. It needs to happen. So I think it's just we're being set up to. He's got everything in his favor to redeem himself this offseason, being Brian Cashman. But doesn't your gut tell you we're just going to get the same as last year? Right? They're just going to keep running it back. That pit in my stomach, it's nauseating to think about. But you could just see, because he's so fucking smart, that he's going to outsmart himself before he even has a chance to outsmart another team and making any moves. Because he's supposedly he knows his players better than anybody. Well, no, you don't, because we've been dealing with IKF in the outfield where you have Florial fucking tearing it up, and multiple windows were open for him to use Florial over Franchi Cordero, over IKF, over Cabrera, who was actually, when they use him in the infield, looks a lot better. Cabrera's done very well with the outfield with IKF, but he looks so much more comfortable when they put him in that third base role. But I don't trust Cashman. That's the problem. I really don't. I have no faith in him at all. He's going to fuck this up. He's going to. I so want by spring training. I so want to be able to come and say, I was wrong. We were all wrong about Cashman. He pulled it off. Holy shit. But I just don't see it.
I think he can pull it off. I think he can pull it off if Hal steps in. If Hal forces him to make some of these moves, then we can see a different offseason. But if Hal says it's your gig, you do it, whoever the analytics tell you to get. If they don't change the staff around Cashman, which I think they're going to do, I think it's much needed. I saw a picture of Fishman yesterday sitting in the dugout, and I just wanted to punch him. But if they could change that analytics team around and get better people surrounding Brian Cashman, which is what we're kind of being hinted at by Hal Steinbrenner, and the fact that they were all in Japan, Hal was there too with Minaya and Cashman. They were watching Yamamoto. I think we're going to be in for an interesting offseason. I don't know if we're going to get everybody, but I do think they're going to go heavily on Yamamoto. There's another pitcher, Imanagi, who might get posted that they've been looking at, and they're in on Lee. So they are really scouring the overseas market, international market, because the free agent market in the MLB is very thin this year. There aren't a lot of game changers. Nola's good, but it's risky.
He's not holding that needle for you.
Yeah,
Nola or Bellinger, really.
Yeah, Bellinger would get you a big bat in the middle of the order, but he's like the cream of the crop after Ohtani, so he's going to get he might get 100 million plus.
Yeah, Cashman really screwed the coop there. He could have got him in the start of the summer.
Yep.
But Donald, give us your final thoughts.
Well, yeah, it's exactly as discussed. I don't have any faith in Brian Cashman at all, but it's a good sign that he's scouting Yamamoto. That's a good thing. and it just so happened to be no hitter, so that's something to be positive about. I'd say just on Dominguez is something to be positive about, and a lot of the guys that we're seeing right now is something to be positive about in 2024. But it still needs to be a balance. The Yankees have the luxury of having money and international money and all those things that they could actually make this team a good team again next year. But it takes a whole rejig of the analytics and a new manager. I'm sorry, I want a new manager. It's not saying Aaron Boone's necessarily at fault for this year, but there's too many excuses, and there's too many games where these guys are unprepared, and there's too many games where these guys don't know what base they're throwing to, and all these kind of things where they just don't look like they know what they're doing, nor do they care. And that's something that has been prevalent for a couple of seasons now. So until I see a new manager in there, Brian Cashman do a massive mea culpa and rejig his ridiculously horrible analytics script led by Mike Fishman. Until I see these changes happen, I don't have any faith that the Yankees are going to take responsibility. But if they do take the responsibility and apologize and beg Garrett Cole for his forgiveness for giving us a Cy Young year and us giving him a last place team, until they actually do that, beg for his forgiveness for this atrocity of a season that he has balled out every single week for, then I don't know. I really don't know. But there's a lot of thinking to do. But hey, the good news is we at least have a farm system, and it is something that's potentially very, very exciting. So that's my final thought.
I got some news here. Yahoo Japan apparently put out an article, and Talking Yanks just put out this tweet. Yankees plan to offer 25-year-old pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto an offer that significantly exceeds the 7 years, $155 million they gave Masahiro Tanaka. They want him. They want him badly. So the fact that he's 25, he could be here for a good 8-9 years and pitch effectively.
Let's go.
So again, we have a long time to wait. You still got to get posted. You got to pay the posting fee. We're still in September, so there's a long time to wait. But they want him. They wouldn't have been sitting front row at that game if they didn't want him. So I think they're going to push to get him very, very heavily. And they always say you can never have too much starting pitching. That's their top target, and I'm fine with that. Because I know they're not going to get Ohtani, who might not even pitch next year. He might just be a hitter. So if you can get Yamamoto and maybe go after Lee as well, that's big. So let's just hope that they don't get outbid, because we know the Mets want him too, and a lot of other teams are going to want this guy. He's going to be the top free agent after Ohtani, and for good reason. He's freaking good.
Yeah,
really.
Let the Mets have Ohtani. We'll worry about Yamamoto. Let them deal with that. But no, I think this is good. And like retired Warner said in the chat earlier, when he put up the salary differences between this year and then all the money that's coming off the books, the Yankees have the financial muscle this year to be the Yankees again. So there's this. We said it last year, and they spit in our face, but there's no excuses this year. This offseason, they have to regain their Yankee ways. No
prestige.
More fucking around. Yeah, the prestige. Good, excellent. But that is going to wrap things up for us this morning. I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with us. We always appreciate it. Donald, welcome back. And
thank you.
We look forward to having the three of us, break everything down for you guys. And as always, if you can, hit that sub button, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow on the YouTube algorithm. But we really do appreciate that. And as I always say, wear those pinch your pride and play hard.